The U.S. abortion rights debate is back in the national spotlight. That's after two conflicting federal rulings over the weekend that all but ensure the debate is set to return to the Supreme Court. The first, a Texas ruling that removes FDA approval for a pill used to block pregnancy hormones. The second, a ruling from Washington State that says authorization cannot be taken away. Joining us with more is Yahoo Finance's Anjalee Khemlani. So what are the implications here?
Many implications. So let's start off with, first of all, what the access question is, because that's the key, right? For anyone who's looking for that pill right now, you still do have access to it. It really is up to prescribers and doctors in those states where it's required for prescription. Otherwise, pharmacies can still dispense it. So that's the important bottom line. But looking at it broadly, there are a couple implications when you look at the industry access. So, for example, the authority of the FDA itself is what's at stake. And we know that companies have been signing on to letters, as reported by CNBC, to stop this and to sort of bring that to light. Because if a court can overturn a approval that the FDA has, then things like the vaccine fight that we saw during the pandemic, all those things can start going through the route of the court. So that's what's still at stake. Now back to what access questions are. We know that some doctors are looking at misoprostol. So remember, mifepristone and misoprostol are two that are put together, and that's the regimen for the medical abortion. Misoprostol alone is not as effective according to clinical trials, but it can be given in higher doses and would be considered off-label as an option. Meanwhile, we know that, broadly speaking, the Washington court case does only affect those states that signed on. So it's about 18 states. I looked, and last I checked, I don't think New York, New Jersey are on there, but Connecticut and Pennsylvania are. So that's interesting to note as well. Meanwhile, we also know that even with this Texas case and even with the ruling to halt the distribution of this medication, it will take time to enforce. So even if it does go through, we do have a bit of a window. Now, let's look at the court process. So this is what happens next. We know that the U.S. government and the company that makes this have already appealed, as they were given a week to do so, waiting for that appeals process to go through. At the same time, because there were two conflicting cases, it could come under the purview of the Supreme Court, as you mentioned, Julie. So it could either go straight to the Supreme Court to deal with, or we'd have to wait for the appeals process to go through first. So that's sort of where we are, broadly speaking, as a country.
That's really good summary and breakdown there for us. While we have you, another healthcare topic, the medical field looking at how it could apply chatbots and artificial intelligence to pharmaceutical care. Experts from around the industry sounding off on its uses and its pitfalls as well. What can you tell us about this?
That's right. And this also comes as a result of, or coincidentally, I might say, at the time of the Elon Musk and Steve Wozniak letter. We know that there's a lot of concern about the impact of ChatGPT, for example, but also just generally AI use. There are already uses in the industry. For example, Moderna using AI to help figure out the formula for its vaccine. There are also other cases like looking at x-rays or looking at results that computers are already in the process of being used for. But the biggest problem facing the industry right now is that it cannot yet help with smaller tasks, even though that's one of the best uses, according to experts like Bill Gates, who had said that it could help healthcare workers most of the time taking care of things like filing claims and dealing with paperwork and the like. But there's also a next generation of tools that's possible, and that could be much more efficient. He said, quote, they'll be able to predict side effects and figure out dosing levels. So that's one area where it could go. But I've also talked to other experts like a GE Healthcare CTO, Taha Kass-Hout, and he told me that while these technologies can really help, the models have never been trained. There is no multimodal, there is no database large enough for all of this healthcare information because, as we know, healthcare information, healthcare data is private. And so that, for right now, while it's protected, kind of prevents the large-scale learning that we need for healthcare to move forward. So it might be a lot slower for this industry.
Really interesting updates there. Anjalee Khemlani, thanks so much for tracking all of this for us. Appreciate it.